Debate number 2 for State House, District 25. To my left is the challenger, Christina Spencer-Kephart, and to my right is challenger David Hood. Give us an opening statement on your candidacy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Christina Spencer-Kephart. I am your candidate for State Representative District 25. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've been in Fort Orange since 1998. I own a small business here that I started in '99, Atlantic Coast Hurricane Shutters. I'm a state certified specialty contractor. I am also a mother to a 4-year-old daughter, Mackenzie, and wife to my husband, Jonathan, who just finished running for mayor of Fort Orange. Just to tell you a little bit about why I intend to run for state representative. Having a 4-year-old daughter, I've learned a lot about what our school systems are currently experiencing, and I think it's very important that we get someone in there to take a serious look at what is going on in the schools with technology, with the teachers' salaries, and to provide a better atmosphere and learning environment for our students. I also think it's important that we take a look at the state licensing requirements that are going on in the construction industry right now. By doing this, it will help protect our citizens and residents of our district. I also think it's important that we provide steady veterans benefits for veterans that have been in past wars and for those that are coming back. They need our support right now. And through this, if you elect me as your state representative, I will work tirelessly to get this done.
Thank you. Fellow challenger Hood, your opening statement.
Thank you. I'm David Hood, and I've lived in Daytona Beach in this area since 1978, and I thank all of you for coming out tonight and listening to us. I was a 2-term mayor in the city of Ormond Beach, and the reason I ran for mayor in Ormond Beach was we kept kicking the can down the road. We didn't deal with the problems that needed to be dealt with. And for 2 terms as mayor, we were able to build ball fields so that the girls had a place to play. They didn't have to wait till when the boys left. We fixed 20 years of drainage problems. We fixed 20 years of streets. We built a brand new facility for our youth as well as our seniors. And we brought back a Memorial Day remembrance for all of our veterans. And we did everything without ever raising taxes, and we never once borrowed against our future. That same technique needs to go to, and the same experience needs to go to Tallahassee, because we've been kicking the can down the road. And until we fix the economy in this state so that we're not always relying on housing, tourism, we need to have manufacturing so that we bring greater jobs, higher paying jobs, so that we quit exporting our children from this area and from the state of Florida. If South Carolina can have Bridgestone, Michelin, Boeing, Honda, BMW, explain to me why the great state of Florida can't have the same quality manufacturing jobs here. And if you're looking for a politician who's actually got specific ideas, that's me. If you want somebody who wants to talk platitudes, that's not me.
Well, Challenger Kephart, like I said, he looks like an incumbent. How do you challenge somebody that has as much experience and name recognition and financing as Mr. Hood, who's very prominent in Volusia County?
Well, first I'd like to say that we have several manufacturers located in our state, both from starting in our own area that manufacture boats or radon, or up to big companies that specialize in aeronautics. So I think first we need to focus on the companies that are currently in our state and how to better those companies and help them grow. And while we're doing that, when we approve our education system, it will then bring in other companies from out of state that will bring their companies here to create jobs. But until we improve the education system and the rating that our county has, those companies won't come. But we have those companies already here, and we need to provide the funding to help them.
Challenger Hood, I know down in Edgewater there's been issues with Boston Whale with layoffs, and throughout the county, as the nation in general, jobs are very hard to come by. What could be done in Tallahassee to make that situation better, especially here in Volusia County?
Well, what we did in Ormond Beach, when I was elected mayor, there were 14 levels between the city manager and the line person. We reduced that to 7. We reduced the red tape that it took to take a business to get started and to get open. She's absolutely right. We do have businesses here, but we're not business friendly to the extent that we can bring businesses in here, the tax rate being low, and we can make things easy for them to do. We should have a SWAT team in California, Illinois, New Jersey, Michigan, New York. These are all high-tax states what right now are having businesses leave them. We should be the first choice for those businesses to come to Florida so that we create higher paying jobs. And when you talk about the education system in the state of Florida before, 20 years ago was ranked in the bottom 10 of this, in the country. Right now it's ranked in the top 10. So yes, we need to keep pursuing education.
Where?
Well, please, let me stop you there.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Kephart, there's going to be an initiative on the ballot asking voters to give more money for the school funding. How well do you think that's going to go over?
Well, I agree with the initiative, and quite honestly, we as legislators in our past session took the time to decide which pie needed to be the state pie versus taking a look at the education. So we were overlooked. Volusia County was overlooked because of that, because they felt that was more important than focusing on our education. And I'd also like to take a look at what your jobs that you cut in Ormond. You said you cut and decided to cut several of the sectors in your city. Well, you cut jobs. Are you intending to replace those jobs by bringing in those big manufacturers?
Absolutely, that's false. What we did,
You cut
And-
public jobs.
we
You
cut public
you
jobs.
cut
Let
public
me finish,
jobs.
please, ma'am. What we actually did factually was every time that a private company won the bid, they were required to take the public employee and continue them in their employment. So there was no cut and anybody lost a job. What we did, and what you need to know factually, the first two bids were won by private companies, and it saved $5 million a year to the city of Ormond Beach. But guess what? The public started winning every one of the bids after that because they finally figured out that if we do this in a more competitive way, and in fact, nobody in the city of Ormond Beach lost jobs, we actually created more jobs in the Spencer-Kephart.
And you also raised taxes by 3%.
That's absolutely false and completely untrue. I was there as mayor, and I can prove to you, we never once raised taxes, period. That's an absolute
So let me
falsehood.
ask you, is this a rollback situation? Or are you saying that he did in fact raise taxes above what would be rollback, where it doesn't really count as a tax increase?
It's quoted in the news journal that there was a 3% raise.
It was quoted in the News Journal that Volusia County was the second highest tax county in the state. And it turned out last night at the debate between Bruno and Hugo that that wasn't the case. What about that?
Well, I can absolutely prove I was mayor that whole period of time. It has been a factual certainty. We never once raised taxes. That was a matter of principle. And that fact, what we did was we reduced the cost of government so substantially we didn't have to. And that's how we got the money to take care of 20 years of drainage problems, 20 years of roads that had never been fixed. And we did all of that without raising taxes, and we never borrowed a dime.
Mrs. Kephart, besides education, what would be another issue near and dear to you that you think is being overlooked in Tallahassee?
Well, one thing I intend to bring forward is making it a state law to protect our citizens and drivers, that it is required that they have hands-free devices in their cars, so that we will cut down on texting and driving, and therefore protecting our citizens while they're out on the roads.
I agree, that's a very noble point, but I think the biggest issue we got facing the state of Florida is we currently have 30% of our budget is Medicaid. Medicaid is increasing at much greater than the cost of living as well as population increase. If we don't fix Medicaid, that number is going to dwarf, and we won't have any money to put into education. You won't have any money to put into veterans benefits. You won't have any money to deal with the other issues the state needs to have. And so I've got 4 or 5 specific programs that we can save $1 billion out of Medicaid and use that money and invest it in areas like education, transportation, and economic development.
What about the Medicaid issue?
Well, I agree that that's a federal issue as well as a state issue. And it needs to be tackled on a federal level, and then it will trickle down to the state level for improvement.
Oftentimes, Challenger Hood, we've had state representatives, state senators that issue press releases and wax poetic about something that's been passed with their name on it, and of course you read the fine print and they're one of 50 names. What will you do if you're elected to really bring your face and your voice to the people of Volusia County?
Well, I'm not really interested in bringing my face to Volusia County. I'm more interested in getting things done. And the first thing we ought to do is a complete overhaul of the criminal justice system. There's almost $1 billion of excess in that can be used to take care of people on drugs or on alcohol, and we can do a more effective job of making our community safe at a better price. We've got to take the Medicaid situation, which is actually a state issue. The federal government funds the state, and the state has to deal with the Medicaid under federal law, and that's the number. If we can fix that, then we quit arguing about whether we got enough money for education. We quit arguing about whether we have enough money to deal with the other issues in the state, because you save $3 or $4 billion there, and guess what we can do? A lot of good.
Thank you. Challenger Kephart, what about the issue of being more visible to the public, the people that put you in office? Oftentimes, people go to Tallahassee and you see a press release in a newspaper translated. What will you do to make that better?
Well, quite honestly, that's one of the reasons why I'm running, because I don't believe that we see enough of our state representatives. When was the last time, as a citizen, you knew what bill was going before the House, before it was voted on? I don't think we ever have. I think it's important that our citizens know and have a voice before your legislator votes on that bill. We can do this through social media, websites, so on. It's easy enough to do, and then that way our citizens have a say in what is going on in their community.
Let's get down to practical everyday life now. This will be our final segment. Challenger Hood, you've had a lot of experience in charitable organizations going back almost 20 years. I could list them, but there'd be like 40 or 50. In today's world where seniors are struggling, people have trouble paying their rent or their electric bill, what can you offer them from the state's perspective in saying, we're going to help protect schools and we're going to do what we can to keep the Boston Whalers and other jobs in place?
The best thing we can do for our community is to make it where we have a good, sound economic base that includes manufacturing, housing, tourism, and then where we make it a commercially perfect place to do business, because if I bring business to this community and to the state, we have less tax burden on the seniors, less tax burden on the residents, and we're putting that money to making a higher quality of life. And that's what we need to do from the state level, because if we fix the job problem, we help everybody.
But how are you going to do that? I mean, we're on the waterfront. We have a beautiful community. We have a lot of amenities. But, you know, we're sandwiched between Orlando and Jacksonville, and it's kind of a long distance between each. What can you actually do to make that happen?
I can get the state out of the Port Orange and the Ormond beaches and the Daytona Beach, get out of their way. We need to have state government be a facilitator, not a burden. And we need to have it where state government forces city governments to do things, and then we don't fund it. So the best thing we can do is respect home rule and say, okay, you tell us what can we do on a state level that makes it easier for y'all to do business, easier for people to do business in your community, and that's what we need to do. And frankly, if I'm elected, I'll have an office in the district. Everybody will have my email, my Facebook, anything, and you can always contact me. So if somebody has an issue, when I was mayor, the people will tell you I was accessible. It'd be the same thing if I'm in the House.
We'll save some of that for you.
Gotcha.